Here to white power.
President
Trump stickers and Hi, officer. How are you? Don't pick me up.
How are you? That's it for you. That's bad.
We're waiting for people to call in. Yeah. I can keep the volume. Oh. It's down.
Then she sent that. I don't.
Is it online or format?
Where's the disaster declaration?
What do you mean?
Are we renewing? Is that what?
It expired, so
It expired? The Department of Health wants us to
Public
renew it?
Safety
Or
is-
Public Safety. Okay, so where is it on the, is it action item? Oh, it's number 8.5.
It's the last action item. Mike is.
Nice mask, listener. Not quite sure what it is.
Here.
Okay.
Among others.
All right.
How you doing, Greta?
How are you? Good.
Her name's Gretchen.
Gretchen,
Nice to see you, Gretchen.
Thank you.
thank you for correcting that.
Might not be happy about it.
I think you have anybody on the phone today? Okay.
Do we have anyone on the phone? Or matter?
Anybody else?
No?
Okay. Ask you to please rise for our opening prayer and pledge allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we reflect this coming week on the birthday of this great land. We thank you for the freedoms that we take for granted. We pray for those who protected our freedom. We remember those who fought and died, those who are currently serving, and to our police who protect us. We pray for our leaders. We pray that we will find unity and not division and strife to help our great nation. Lord, we look upon this Independence Day and learn to be more dependent upon you. May our country be covered with your glory, one nation under God. We ask for your blessing at this meeting. These things we humbly pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll convene the Commissioners' meeting this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little disturbed by something that happened before you two came down here. I was in the back of the room and the chief of adult probation is on the phone saying to the sheriff, you better send people over here. And I said to him, why are you calling for more sheriff's deputies? He said, well, look, these people are here. Haven't you seen what's going on all around the country? And I found that, quite frankly, to be appalling, that when people came to exercise their civil rights, the response of one of our employees, who's paid by the taxpayers, was to call the sheriff's department. He then went on to continue to lambaste me and say that, quote, I'm done with you, talking to me, because apparently he found it offensive that I told him that I thought it was inappropriate to be calling more sheriffs in, that I didn't think that the people here represented a threat to anybody, and that I was disturbed. And I think that we have to understand as a country, and I want to hope we're going to talk about this later, that the more we create, when people are trying to exercise their points of view and say what it is, the more that we create an atmosphere of escalation, the more likely we're going to have problems. People have a right under the Constitution, Mr. McCoy, to express themselves. Bringing in additional sheriff's deputies, in my mind, is an effort to try, quite frankly, to intimidate and to stifle that representation. So I'm quite disturbed and I'm actually disturbed by your comments to me too. You work for the taxpayers of this county, Mr. McCoy. You may not work for me personally, but as long as I'm a representative of the taxpayers, I think you owe me a modicum of respect.
Do I get to respond?
No,
Not this time. No, not right now, Ed.
No, but I will respond. And obviously, Commissioner, we want everybody to be able to exercise their First Amendment rights, okay? In a manner that is respectful to also this establishment. And judging by their actions on Inauguration Day, they did not act reasonably, period. And if they act like this in our meeting, we will have them escorted out. Okay, so that's the reason why they're here. Now, if they behave and do what most reasonable people do, I have no problem with them. If they try to disrupt the meeting by yelling and not allowing our people that are here to be able to speak reasonably and us to be able to relay our information back to them, that is why, you know, you may need some extra security. I don't know. I don't fault them for being here, and I don't fault them for being here. It's okay. It's okay to protest. Do it in a respectful manner. That's all.
And Commissioner, I am the chairman of this board. And as long as I'm chairman, everyone will have their opportunity to speak. Will have their opportunity to voice their concerns. And we'll make decisions, we'll vote on those decisions. I too, 5 minutes ago, contacted the Sheriff's Department. And the reason why I did so is because of the behavior that was demonstrated by this group during a city council meeting where the city council had to take a recess. And Chief Hagan had to go out in the hallway and speak to them personally. So I do not want any disruptions in our meeting. They're welcome to stay in here. They're welcome to talk during public comment. They're welcome to join us every Tuesday and Thursday if they wish. They're welcome to protest outside. I have no problems with that. I want to hear from them. But I do not want any meetings from anyone disrupted during our meetings. I don't care who they are, they're not going to disrupt meetings. So I asked the sheriffs to just come down to make sure that everything was kept in line. There's nothing wrong with that. As I would to any group or any person who I would think that possibly could disrupt the meeting. There's nothing wrong with that. So at this time, I'll convene the commissioners' meeting. I ask approval for the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll move to
I'll
approve.
second.
Public comment at this time. I'm sorry, all in favor of the minutes, vote aye.
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 Aye, thank you. At this time, I have a public comment on agenda items only, please. Hearing none, we're going to move ahead to the awards. We have a special guest today in our attendance, and we're upstairs. We met with this young lady about a half hour ago, and she has quite the schedule. It's amazing what she's doing and promoting our dairy industry, and we know our dairy farmers, all the farmers in our nation work hard. They're 2% of our population, and they feed 98% of us. And it's amazing what our farmers do, and for you to represent the dairy farmers, which is the dairy industry. They make the same wages as they do in 1981. Which is, there isn't a profession around that makes the same wages as they did back in 1981. And they work their fingers to the bones. And they don't have a schedule where it's 9 to 5. They're working 24/7. So at this time, we have a proclamation.
We have two.
There are two.
Okay,
Yep.
so, Commissioner Macer has one, and Commissioner Mirabito has.
Should we do this one first?
Yeah, you'd like to go first?
Yeah, I think
Okay,
this
go ahead.
is this is the lead-in to why Ms. Taylor's here today. Proclamation. Whereas dairy farmers have contributed to the development and well-being of Lycoming County, Pennsylvania since the earliest formation of Lycoming County, Pennsylvania. And whereas the dairy industry is a major industry in Lycoming County and a significant contribution to the economy of Lycoming County. Excuse me. Whereas milk is the most nearly perfect beverage and dairy foods provide health benefits, including 9 valuable nutrients. And whereas real milk and dairy foods are superior to their imitations in quality, values, and taste. Whereas the 83rd celebration of June Dairy Month, highlighting the dairy industry, will occur during June 2020. Whereas July is Ice Cream Month, for those of you who didn't know that, and who does not enjoy a real refreshing ice cream during the month of July. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Lycoming County Commissioners on this 30th day of June 2020 that June 2020 is designated as a celebration of June Dairy Month, and July 2020 is designated to be the celebration of Ice Cream Month. We call upon all the people of Lycoming County, Pennsylvania, to observe these 2 beautiful summer months as our county and country starts to return to some normalcy after pandemic times. Please join and follow these appropriate programs, activities, and efforts to support our dairy farmers. Lycoming County Commissioners signed Scott L. Metzger, Chairman, Tony R. Macer, Vice Chairman, and Richard Marabito, Secretary. Mr. Chairman, I think we may want to hear from the Dairy Princess herself about her mission and what she is doing.
Okay. You step up to the podium, please. Yep.
I'd like to start by thanking you all for coming today. It truly is an honor to be in front of you representing all the dairy farmers of Lycoming County. We actually have the privilege. Mr. Bruce Bartley joined us today. He is a dairy farmer in Lycoming County, and we could not thank him enough for the work that he does representing our farmers as well as his farm himself. If you don't know, like I said, my name is Caitlin Taylor. I'm this year's princess, so I have the opportunity to represent all of Lycoming County. To give you a little insight on what we're doing, we are trying to cover different locations that are currently available to speak at, and even sending items to places that are currently not open to share the message as far and wide as we can, because we believe that milk is very important. It's one of the portions on your food plate to get a full and complete diet. And I just like to remind all of you to get your 3 servings of dairy every single day and support your local farmers for everything they do. And I'd like to thank the commissioners again for having us.
Thank you, Caitlin. Yes. Mr. Stout, I believe you've interviewed Ms. Taylor.
I can't resist. I have interviewed this lady twice. I am her biggest fan. I have seen her speak to adults at a meeting that we had. I've seen her with children. She does Facebook things during COVID. She had 2 features during the week on dairy products. This isn't, you often think of these people just as in a parade waving, This is a worker. I mean, she is one of the greatest advocates for the dairy industry, and I'm very proud that she's from Montgomery, so that might have something to do with it. But she has just been a tremendous, tremendous asset, I think, to the county, and hopefully she'll get elected as one of the state representatives, which hopefully will be held in September. Of course, all this is up in the air. But I just wanted to commend this young lady. She is truly a treasure for the county.
Yep, she's a rising star.
I'll add on to that. You know, I know her parents. I introduced her grandmother. When certain people say, "Geez, what's happened to our youth today?" Okay, they're certainly not looking at this lady. Okay, this lady is an example of what children and young adults should be representing. And we have many young adults that are just like Caitlin. Okay, they're in our community. They are active. They want to help our community thrive and be a place where we're proud to live in. So, Caitlin, I also have a proclamation for you as well. I'm not sure when the chairman wants me to read it, but go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Whereas Caitlin Taylor is the 2020-2021 Lycoming County Dairy Princess, and whereas Caitlin enthusiastically is promoting the importance of the dairy industry in Lycoming County, whereas the qualifications of County Dairy Princess requires dairy farm and dairy-related background or ownership of dairy animals, service as a junior dairy promoter for at least 1 year, or parental employment in the dairy industry or an agribusiness serving the dairy industry. And whereas after receiving her crown, Caitlin prepares to compete for the state title to serve the dairy industry in the state of Pennsylvania, as well as the county of Lycoming. And now, therefore, the Board of Commissioners of the County of Lycoming recognize the outstanding achievements of Caitlin Taylor, commend her dedication to the dairy industry, and wish her well in the state of Pennsylvania competition. Signed and sealed this 30th day of June 2020. Lycoming County Commissioners Scott Metzger, Chairman, Tony Messer, Vice Chairman, Rick Marabito, Secretary.
Caitlin, thank you for everything you're doing and continued success. We wish you well. And again, please help support our dairy farmers. I often go get my gallon of milk at Turkey Hill every 2 or 3 days, and every once in a while I'll hear a person in the line complain about the price of milk. And I said one time to the gentleman who was complaining behind me, I said, "You know they haven't received a pay increase since 1981? And I said, "How much do you pay for a pack of cigarettes? How much do you pay for a bottle of beer? You go to a stadium. Some people pay $10.50 for a bottle of beer, and these are our dairy farmers. This is the backbone of our county and society. So please support them."
Caitlin, thanks for doing what you're doing, because we know that in talking to your mother and your grandmother that there's been a real absence of young people in some other counties promoting the dairy industry, and we know that it is the future for us. The young people are the future. If the dairy farmers don't have young people who can come up and take over the operations, then they're going to have to close down. We appreciate that. Your mom and dad have been a great example. Your mom, I know, from 4-H for many years. Your dad is on the planning commission and puts a lot of time and energy into it. And obviously you took all those lessons as well as that just working on a farm, and you put them to good use. So we thank you for that. We have this for you, and also a little pin for excellence.
Congratulations, Jay. Oh. Okay. We've got your, this is the dairy.
And you may leave. I know you have another appointment, so don't.
Thank you.
Imagine
You'll be
that.
on the radio, right?
Yes.
Yes, good luck on the radio.
And don't forget what Mike Kasher said. By the way, Chairman,
Yes.
I do have to leave in about 10 minutes.
Yes, you have to go to Harrisburg.
Be down in Harrisburg.
Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, we're gonna move on, TDA actions with Roxanne Greco.
Good morning, Roxanne.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're asking for an update to our TDA in planning the creation of one full-time natural resource planner, pay grades 8 and 9.
Okay. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. So carried.
Moving on to personnel actions in adult probation, Hunter Kibler as a full-time replacement adult probation officer, pay grade APO, $21.95 an hour, effective July 13th, 2020. And in the treasurer's office, Elisa Stein as a part-time replacement clerk 1, pay grade 2, $10.94 an hour, not to exceed 1,000 hours annually. And this is to be effective July 13th, 2020.
Okay, any discussion on either one of the personnel actions? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Vote for carried. Recess the Commissioners' meeting at this time and adjourn the salary board action.
Salary Board with Roxanne.
Commissioners, we're asking you to update the salary schedule, once again in planning to create the one full-time natural resource planner, pay grades 8 and 9.
Okay. I see our planning director here, Shannon Rossman. Would you like to address this position?
Commissioners, this is a position that's kind of been mothballed for a few years, and with the amount of work that we have with regard to updating numerous plans in the future and complying with a number of grants that we have in the works or already have, we need to reinstitute this position. And we're also going to hopefully be able to use them to help with open space and recreation issues and additional outreach to our communities.
And without this position, the grants, what are we looking like dollar-wise?
Well, you know, help with our Brownfield grants, that's an $800,000 grant loan project. You know, it just compounds with regard to our grant that we want to apply for to update our solid waste plan. That's a considerable amount of money to update that plan, and if we have that person, we can do it in-house. It costs us very little money then.
Okay.
So those are the types of things we need to do. We also want to update our open space and rec plans so our municipalities are able to achieve additional grants for their own projects in addition to our projects. So it's exponentially.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
You know, this is an example of where we eliminated the environmental planner position several years ago, and we saved, you know, probably over $100,000 by doing that. But, you know, it ebbs and flows like in any organization. And the items that you just mentioned, the $800,000 Brownfield grant that we got from the EPA was very unusual and very important to an older industrial community because a lot of our older industrial sites are Brownfield sites. And in order to develop them, we're going to have to do EPA studies for the EPA. And we got a great program that the planning department was able to secure where money will be loaned at a very low interest rate, and grants will be provided to developers who want to come in, so it'll help foster economic development. That's one that you mentioned. The solid waste plan, we don't have a choice. We have a landfill, and when you have a landfill, you're obligated by the state to do a solid waste plan every 5 years, I believe.
Yeah, everybody is required to have a solid waste plan.
Everyone's required.
Regardless of a landfill, but it is even more important because we service additional counties through that landfill. And we really need to update our plan. It's very old and needs significant updates.
And certainly having a landfill probably makes it a little more complicated
Yes, it does.
than not.
And they're not allowed to do it. We have to do it because it would be a conflict of interest for them to do it.
Right. And you mentioned the open space rec plan, and that is really important because we know, and Commissioner Macera has talked about this a lot from his prior years, they will tell you that there's a grant available. Oh, by the way, the deadline is 3 weeks. So if you have it on the shelf, if you have the plans on the shelf and you have it ready to go, your chances of getting that state and federal money goes up a lot. So I think that the planning department deserves some credit for going without the position for 2 years, but we're at the point where we have to do something, move out on it.
And that position may have been eliminated maybe 6-7 years ago.
I think it's been a while, but we've also changed it just slightly so they can be a little more broad.
I think it's important for the public to know because we receive a lot of emails and phone calls, especially now with the COVID that's going on, and the lack of employment and the concern of taxes, okay? That we have lost several people and a couple of very key people in your department over the last, within the last 3 or 4
6 months.
6 months, okay.
Yeah.
And it's not, these aren't positions that you can fill readily, okay? So we rely upon subcontractors who charge
Significantly
hundreds of dollars
more.
an hour,
Yeah.
okay? So we understand the need for this position. We're not hiring people just because we want to. This is needed for the greater good of our community, and certainly
Yeah, and
support it.
these positions, in a lot of ways, are unique because every grant is different. Every agency you get a grant from has different requirements, and you have to really have the people who understand and can focus on those types of grants. It's not something that anybody off the street can just come in and operate. As we're seeing with all the funding that we're potentially going to see coming up to help with the businesses and with some of the other entities, they come with a lot of strings. Strings that are tangled and strings that are tied in knots, and you have to have somebody that can undo those knots because it is not a pleasant thing to deal with. So.
Thanks, Chip.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion to accept the salary board action 6-1.
I'll move.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
We're moving on to 7.0, information items. We'll start with 7.1, Jerry Kennedy, to discuss closed captioning of live stream.
Jerry, when you discuss this, could you give a little bit of the history of the initial requests for our meetings to go live stream and then what has transpired since then?
Okay.
Thank you.
Since last fall sometime, we have been placing our meetings on YouTube. We tried a couple of different cameras. Camera we have here today is what we eventually decided on. The initial project was supposed to be quick, easy, hands-off, and not cost much more than $1,000 a year. Since that time, COVID has hit. We restricted attendance of the public, so we allowed commentary via YouTube, and through that process, we had some folks bring up the need for closed captioning services on the live stream. We have reviewed our options, tested a few things, recognize that the closed captioning is not, the technology is not perfect. We actually had some folks, we ran a test with one service. We had some folks speaking at this podium, presenting information, and there was actually words that were presented in the closed caption that I wouldn't want to necessarily repeat in a public meeting. The closed captioning doesn't necessarily keep up well and relay the message that was relayed in person. So we've worked in conjunction with IT at the city to consider our options. We've had options available to us that are free via YouTube. We have options that cost a couple $1,000s. We have options that cost upwards of $24,000 depending on how long our meetings actually go, how many meetings we have. From there, I've basically summarized those thoughts and presented it to the commissioners for a final decision or discussion, whatever we're about to do today, on our future direction. And basically, in summary, my recommendation was to record the meetings and post after the fact so that YouTube has the closed captioning available and is available for everyone utilizing that service at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
So, Jerry, why don't you outline for us the options? You said that they range in price from several thousand to 24,000. Just identify what the options are, what the pros and cons are of each option, if you could.
First option is YouTube, which is free. Second option would be Boxcast. They have a closed captioning service. That's the one that we had test drove. That would take our annual bill to about $3,600. The additional options.
Jerry, the Boxcast, is that the one that was inaccurate when people were speaking at the podium?
They're all pretty much of the same quality.
Because it's important to whoever's talking that the words are presented what they're saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I know, you said YouTube was free, but they don't do closed caption, right?
Not on the live stream. After the fact, they do.
So in other words, someone wouldn't be able to participate in the meeting because they wouldn't, it's not the closed caption. It gets recorded, played back later with closed caption added.
Correct.
Okay, so it's after the fact, okay. And what was the third one?
The third one was the archive captioning, which was suggested by our local groups. That comes in at $95 an hour, 1 hour minimums, and then billed in quarter-hour increments after that. By my estimations, if we had 1 hour meetings twice a week for 50 weeks, knowing that we have vacations and holidays and stuff like that, that we don't have our meetings, I estimated minimum cost $10,000 a year. If we go 2.5 hour meetings twice a week for 50 weeks, we're up towards $24,000. So that's where those numbers came from. And there, I've looked at other services. Another service that does it at $1.25 a minute. That equals out to about $75 an hour. I mean, honestly, to get a true representation of what is told or what is actually said in a meeting, I think you would have to do either a transcriptionist or a in-person ASL representative.
Jerry, how many people watch the meetings per week?
Currently, when I stepped away, we had 9 people on the stream.
How many of them were employees?
Historically, I can probably name 7 or 8 that I know watch.
So I just want everyone to be aware that I voted against this video because of the cost. Not that it was a lot, but it was still $22,000 some dollars for the initial equipment. Now to be talking about those numbers, it's just something that we can't really afford. If there is that much cost, more cost involved, I mean, you know, a couple $100 is one thing, but thousands of dollars is another, okay? And I would vote in favor of just discontinuing the video. And the one option you brought up was just tape it and then send it to YouTube, and it doesn't cost us anything. And I'm all in favor of that. It doesn't need to be live.
And I believe this was voted on last year. I was not on the Board of Commissioners at that time. It was a 2-to-1 vote. And I remember there was some discussion about the cost of it. The reason why it was voted on was they wanted transparency at commissioners' meetings for people who could not attend the commissioners' meetings. I can assure you that commissioners' meetings will be going back to normal in July. We'll start our work sessions, I believe next week.
July 7th.
July 7th, we'll start our work sessions, and then the commissioners' meetings will be on Thursday. So we will be returning to the old format of twice a week. I saw both sides of the argument back a year ago, so more people could watch it. But I also saw the cost of it, $2,000. Personally, if I would have been on the board at the time, I would have voted against it. I believe that the commissioners, the previous board and this board, are very transparent. And, you know, I haven't discussed this yet with the other two commissioners. I would love to have, are you going to join us by phone?
Yeah.
Okay. I would love to have commissioners' meetings at night, maybe later in the day. We could have a commissioners' meeting later in the afternoon, so people that are working could leave work maybe a little earlier. People that are at 10:30 shift maybe show up at 4 o'clock for a commissioners' meeting. And also having commissioners' meetings possibly in other parts of the county, such as they do the budget meetings 3 times a year, having that on occasion. So I again am for transparency, just as my 2 colleagues are, but to increase the cost is a major concern. So I am also making sure that everyone has an opportunity to see the video. I think the accuracy is the most important thing. What people state, they can always call in. They can discuss any issue with us at any time. And my phone's always available to speak to anybody. I'm not going to deny anybody the right to speak or answer their questions. So, but again, the cost is a big concern to me. So I would also think that out of our options presented so far, to make sure the accuracy of it is that we tape it and provide it later to everyone so that the accuracy is there and
It's
it's
just to
appropriate.
clarify, it's not going to, still not going to be perfect on YouTube.
Yeah, but it'll be better than what it is now. Because you shared some of those,
Yeah.
you know, when somebody's stating a word and it comes across as a vulgarity or an inappropriate word, and that's not what they said, because the sound of it sounds like it might be another word because it rhymes. That's not good.
Yeah.
And it's not good for anybody out there listening to it. So.
I'm on the line, Scott.
Okay, thank you.
So I think that we have to recognize that when we provide real-time, there are 2 issues going on here. One is the live stream meeting, the other one is whether or not we're going to make the live stream meeting available to people who have the disability of not being able to hear. So putting aside the first issue of the live stream meetings, because we voted to do that last October, the crux of the question is, are people who are not able to hear entitled to the same right to participate in the meeting as people who are able-bodied hearing now? And so the answer is absolutely yes. And in fact, unless we want to jeopardize all the federal money we get from the federal government, I would suggest that we do the less expensive one, which is $24,000 a year, than having a live person doing ASL here, which could go on, if the meeting goes on for 4 hours, we'll be paying the person for 4 hours. I don't think that the folks in the community who have a desire to see and participate in the meetings have objected to us using closed captioning that's live, but quite frankly, if they wanted to, if it was not correct and accurate, they could say we want to have an interpreter, a sign language interpreter at every meeting. Every time we did the press conference, when we did the press conference, the 3 or 4 press conferences we've done, they have a right under federal law to have a interpreter there. In fact, if you see any of the press conferences held by the president or the governor or anybody, they have an ASL interpreter there. So, sometimes doing the right thing in a way that is less expensive is, in the long run, probably better for everybody than saying we're gonna put these up and after the meeting's over we're gonna put the captioning up, because that doesn't cut it. I think that as a community, as a county, we would have a difficult time saying that $10,000 to $24,000 a year is too much, because if you look at it as a fraction of our capital budget, which is millions and millions of dollars, it is very small. But if you look at other things we have spent money on, like $10,000 for patio furniture, I think that a federal judge would tell us that you people have to understand that you have a right to spend your $10,000 on patio furniture for the golf course, but you also have a legal obligation to spend your $10,000 to $24,000 on allowing people who can't hear to participate. So we don't have any formal motions on the floor, but I think it would behoove us to do the right thing and to go with the, you called it archive captioning? Is that the one that's, Boxcast was the one that wasn't working and we've had a bad experience. That was $3,600 per year. And then I thought you said archive captioning is what it's called, but
Yes, that's the name of the service.
that's the name of the service, right? And that's the one that would give us more accurate captioning, but at a higher cost.
It is certainly at a higher cost. We don't know that it's more accurate.
Okay. Well, I guess let's put it this way. It's probably at a lesser cost than having an ASL interpreter here, an American Sign Language interpreter.
Considering the difficulties that the court system has of
finding them.
Finding one.
Yeah. So I think maybe my colleagues, I think it might make sense for us to try that, even though it's a little more expensive than what we expected, and just recognize that, it's like anything, whether it's making sidewalks accessible or whether it's making doors accessible for people who are paraplegic, quadriplegic. By the way, this is really important for the public to understand. A lot of our veterans have serious disabilities. A lot of our veterans are unable to use all of their limbs or have traumatic brain injuries from having served in the country. So I think that obviously we should do it because it's the right thing, but we should also recognize that we can't say we honor veterans if we don't make our meetings accessible to them. Whether they lost their hearing through an IED that was exploded underneath their vehicle or some other way, I think it's important for us to recognize that it's sort of like just a cost that we have to do, and yeah, we haven't been doing it for years, but it doesn't mean that we should keep doing what's not the right thing. So I hope we can keep that in mind.
Okay. Again, this was just placed on the item. Reports today was requested by me so that we could put it out there for discussion, and we'll put it on the future agenda for vote. I would like to research some more with Mr. Kennedy and our solicitor.
Yeah, and I think this is a good, healthy conversation we're having about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, next item.
7.2, Lauren Strasser, RFP for electronic recycling, and she's on the line.
Morning, Lauren.
Morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're going out for a request for proposal for our processing electronic and recycling for electronic waste. The items that we are looking for to be recycled are listed in the Cover Device Act of 2013, which prohibits the certain items to be in the landfill. So that's the TVs, computers, anything that would plug into a computer like keyboard, mice, printers, and such. Right now we're open just to the residents, and that's because of the program that we're under, which allows it to be free for our residents. Last time we went out to bid was 3 years ago, 2017, and we had a really good response, so I'm hoping to get another good response back. It's going to be advertised on Thursday and on Monday, and we should have the bids back on July 17th to be open on the 21st.
So Lauren, just so I understand this, Commissioner Maravito, so our goal is to continue to make it free for our residents and have a company pay us for the material they pick up?
That's the hope.
Yeah, okay.
We need to see what's out there.
And by the way, I think it would help for you to just quickly explain to the public what they can drop off at the transfer station in terms of electronic devices for recycling, because I'm not sure a lot of them necessarily know. I still see TV sets sitting alongside the road in people's garbage and so forth.
Right. So we're actually updating our signs on both sites, at the landfill and at the transfer station. So what we collect are just the television, so any type of monitors, if it's flat screen or still the glass, leaded glass, computers, so that's the monitor, that's the towers, any components of the computer. And then what I was saying about anything that can plug into the computer, again, that's keyboard, mice, speakers, printers, scanners, and then all the other electronics are not part of that. So there's other options out there for recycling. I know there's a local recycler that's been working with us or available in our county that collects the other type of electronics. But for the purposes of the CDRA, that prohibits those type of electronics from going into the landfill.
What are those? What are the ones that can't be recycled?
The ones I listed are the ones that can't be recycled.
Yeah.
So they're technically recyclable, but that would be your cell phones. Some people think anything with a plug is recyclable, so being like a pressure cooker or, a tea kettle that's electronic. Those are not things that we want in our electronic box at our electronics or for our site. And where I've been telling people to go to is a location in Hughesville called KVS Computers. They have been collecting different types of electronics that we are not able to accept. Now that changes throughout the year for their availability because, again, recycling markets are always fluid and changing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too, bye.
Thanks.
The next three action items, 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, are Jerry Kennedy.
Morning, Commissioners. 8.1 and 8.2 are our Microsoft renewals. This is actually the beginning of a new 3-year contract with Microsoft. This contract is negotiated in partnership with other counties across the state, AOPC and CCAP, so that we can leverage our purchasing power and acquire the best pricing possible. These two agreements total $194,077.55 annually for the next 3 years.
Commissioner Massar, can you hear him?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept action item 8.1?
And 2.
And 2, I'm sorry.
I'll move to approve 8.1 and
I'll
8.2.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
I mean, Mr. Kennedy, we really don't have any choice here, right? I mean, we've got Microsoft systems, and we've got to pay them for the licensing.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
It's part of carrying Microsoft.
Right.
Yep, goes with the package.
Right.
8.3 is our Cisco SmartNet renewal on our core networking switch in the data center. It actually includes a couple of additional switches as well, but it's primarily the core. It behooves us greatly to maintain support on that. It is a 24/7, 4-hour response support level. Cisco also allows us then to obtain software updates, security updates, etc.
Okay, discussion action on action item 8.3.
This is a similar situation, Mr. Kennedy, right? But this is Cisco now.
This is Cisco now. It's not necessarily the same situation. We could potentially use the hardware and take our chances. But if we didn't have the hardware and there was an issue, there have been issues with it, and we have used it to maintain our connectivity. Should something happen and we didn't have the service on it, we'd be down for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And this is at the core.
I'll take those chances.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the Cisco contract.
We have a motion, and we have a second.
Yes, I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 So carried.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Jerry. And thank you on your work for the closed caption, looking into it. We'll have further discussions and see what we can explore as other resources possibly too, so we can satisfy everybody. Thank you.
8.4, Wendy Hastings, vote on grant agreement with the Department of Health for Emergency Management Services.
Morning, Wendy.
Good morning. This is actually, for clarification, emergency medical services, not management services. So this would extend our contract to administer the emergency medical services program for Lycoming, Tioga, and Sullivan counties from July 1 of this year through June 30th of next year.
Okay, any discussion on this?
So Wendy, this is the grant that we use every year that we get from the state for our emergency medical services, right?
Correct.
And this is what helps our training and our support to our emergency medical providers?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll move to approve accepting the grant.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 So carried. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Okay, action item 8.5, Mr. Hutchins could not be here today. The county is going to extend their disaster emergency declaration for the next 90 days. The reason being is for federal monies that the county will be looking for reimbursement on. This allows the county to seek those federal funds and reimbursement. So we will be issuing a declaration of disaster emergency for the next 90 days due to those reasons.
You know, in looking at this declaration of disaster emergency, I think this is great that we're extending this. I think that we should read this and rethink what the folks who are here today, I see signs from ADAPT and others talking about. When I see the last whereas on the front page, it says, whereas emergency management measures are required to reduce the severity of this disaster and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of affected residents in Lycoming County. I can't help but think of the situation of trying to move people to not be in congregate or group living. When I look at the last one, it says, further, we direct the Lycoming County EMA, Emergency Management Agency, to coordinate the activities of emergency response, to take all appropriate action needed to alleviate the effects of this disaster, aid in the restoration of essential public service, and take any other emergency response actions deemed necessary to respond to this disaster. I'm also reminded, now this is very interesting, and I haven't had a chance to share this with you. I saw some articles in the paper that in other countries, they are moving people to hotels who have COVID-19 or who are in congregate living areas where they're at risk of contracting it. I thought it was fascinating, and I don't have it with me on my phone, but it's something. The article was talking about the fact that in the United States there are thousands and thousands of hotels that are empty. And, you know, we talked about this yesterday, about the mortality rate, and when you look at our country, I think I pointed out yesterday that the country with the highest mortality rate is England, with I think 100,000, and then you get Mexico, Ecuador, Indonesia, which are obviously, the first two especially, are obviously much poorer countries. Then you get the United States. So I'm wondering if we are doing everything we can do, even in line with our own declaration of disaster. So to my two colleagues, I think it's great that we're extending this. I'm concerned. I'm also concerned that I don't know whether you plan to have a discussion about this, about the masks. I forwarded to each of you I received 2 calls from people who live outside the county who come here and spend money in restaurants, and both of them were very upset that they didn't see that a lot of people were not wearing masks in the county. And I say to our small businesses, both of them said, you know, that they were not going to continue to come for those services here. And I think that's of some concern, that we need to, and actually at the national level, it seems as though the tone seems to be changing. We have Vice President Pence saying that people should be wearing masks. So I think that we may want to rethink. I've said before that I think that the county should be requiring masks in county buildings, and I'll continue to stick by that. I know we have a very small number of cases, but the whole point is to be preventative. And I don't know whether you had a chance to hear that message, Mr. Chairman, that I sent on. I know Commissioner Massaro.
Yeah, I listened to it.
And what was your thought on that? On her? Woman from Bellefonte?
Yes, I listened to it. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's concerning to me.
I understand her concern. She's from Bellefonte, so I appreciate her phone call. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I welcome people to reach out to us on both sides. Okay, I have a motion to accept the disaster declaration.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner?
Yep. Aye.
Okay, so carried 3-0. We also have a media release that went out regarding the taxes. What we did for the county is we extended the face period for the taxes, the county taxes. So today would have been the deadline, June 30th, for the face period. The county has extended it to August 31st to allow that. I believe most townships and boroughs have complied with that. They've done a resolution of their own. It's been a blanket resolution that we provided to allow that to happen. There are a few, I believe, that did not go along with it. Director, do you know which ones they are?
Not off the top of my head. It was less than 5.
Less than 5 townships or boroughs. And this was to provide relief for those individuals that did need the extension due to COVID. And the commissioners voted 3-0 for this real estate base period to be extended. Any discussion on that? Okay.
Commissioner comment?
Either commissioner have any comments?
I'll reiterate that I really do think that we're sending a mixed message on the masks. I thought that it was enlightening. I was informed by someone that a private sector employer called them and said they were having trouble getting their employees to wear masks, and the employee said to the private sector employer, well, the county doesn't have to wear them, why do we have to wear them? So I think as leaders in this community, we need to send a message that that wearing a mask is not to protect yourself. It's to be considerate of others and to be considerate of our healthcare workers. Because every time somebody gets sick with COVID-19, our healthcare workers, and I think all we have to do, I know that we're living in a rural community where we don't seem to have many cases, but if you look at what's happened in 9 states, and I know Commissioner Metzger, you've shared some interesting insights about those states in terms of which ones have masks and which don't, but I always think it's better to err on the side of caution. So I would urge us to, and by the way, the idea that the planning cell should make the decision, we as commissioners have the absolute authority to say, hey, in our buildings, you have to come in with a mask, and everyone has to wear a mask. Just like we have the absolute authority to say, hey, you can't come in here barefoot. It's the same thing. Obviously, the two are not equivalent, but we do control the building. So that's my concern there.
And I will add to this. You know, when we're looking at the recommendations, the CDC, things like this, you have to understand that New York City has 8.39 million people. They have square miles of 302. That means their population density is 27,756 people per square mile. Philadelphia has 1.584 million people. Their square miles is 141.7. Their density, population density, is 11,178.54 people. Pittsburgh has a population of 301,000. Their square miles is 58. Their density is 5,168. Lycoming County has a population of 116,000, with the square miles of 1,244 square miles. Our population density is 91. There's a huge difference between where you live and how this virus affects you. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Okay, because sometimes to me, Commissioner Maravito, I don't have any issue with wearing the mask right now, but obviously there are a lot of people that do. I've heard from 14 people, 2 of them from out of town, that wanted us to set the example by wearing masks. Then as I go into Lowe's and Walmart, see the number of people, and even in the restaurants, that are not wearing masks now, makes me wonder and ask the question, why? You know, why is it that people don't want to wear masks? And, you know, let's think outside the box. Since March, and long before that, we've seen, and I wonder if it's the same people, that's seen our constitutional rights being taken away from them, and they're tired of it. They have seen people tearing down statues of our history, of our president. I think they're tired of it. They've watched thugs burn down buildings of innocent owners of businesses, and I think they're tired of it. They've seen people get beat up by thugs, our police officers being shot, thrown bricks, burning down their buildings, burning their cars, and I think they're goddamn tired of it. And maybe this is their way of saying, screw you. You're not going to take this right away from me. And we better start to listen to these.
So the only thing I can say to those folks is they're not wearing the mask to protect themselves. They're being considerate of the fact that they may be positive and not have symptoms, and they can spread the virus to people who have compromised immune systems, people who are 65 and over, who may otherwise be healthy. So it's about trying to protect the most vulnerable, people with compromised immune systems, from all sorts of things.
Commissioner, I would like to see what the mortality rate was prior to this in the home, okay? Because 70% of the people that are asymptomatic, they don't even know they have it. How dangerous is this? And I know that it affects some elderly, but does it affect it in that big of a percentage more than what a flu would or something else would? I don't think so. And yet, we tear down our economy. We give up our constitutional rights for things that just don't make sense. You shut down my carpet store, but you leave Lowe's open so that they can boast about their record income. You know, nothing makes sense. And I'm not even sure if the mask makes sense anymore.
So the mask has probably been one of the most controversial items I've seen in my lifetime. If you wear it, you're saving the world. If you don't wear it, you hate humanity and you want everybody to die. I mean, what's wrong with people? Why is there so much hatred? You differ in opinions, and if you don't agree, they hate you. Are you serious? It's okay to disagree to agree. We're not going to agree on everything. I have followed these numbers till I get sick of watching them. And a lot of what Commissioner Massar says makes sense. Because we had a governor that closed businesses down at 8 o'clock the next night. He didn't take into consideration what was essential and what was non-essential. He just closed them down. And then you had to do a waiver. People lost inventory. It rotted away. And then they have to reopen, they have to buy the sanitary equipment to reopen. They didn't close because they wanted to close or because they failed. They were told they had to close. And for good reason. We don't want the hospital systems to get overwhelmed. Remember that phrase? It's amazing when you turn on the news and you see phrases that are used for a week or so. And when that phrase wears out, they go to the next phrase. And the next phrase, and the next phrase, until that phrase wears out. So that phrase is, we're going to flatten the curve. We don't want to overwhelm the healthcare systems. So the more you give and give and give and give, and when they see the results aren't there that they want, then they go to the next phrase. UPMC, over the last 16 weeks, had 45 cases. 45 cases that were COVID-19 in their hospital system. 45 cases. That's 2.3 cases a week. 30 nursing bed facilities. 1 COVID case. 1. Currently, 78% of the state has recovered from COVID. 78% of the state has recovered. There are currently 15 active cases in Lycoming County out of 113,000 residents. 15 active cases. We've had 11 in the last 21 days. This is from our Department of Public Safety Director. So I'm not pulling them out my rear end. These numbers are coming from the experts. Statewide, we don't want to overwhelm our hospitals. 2 months ago, 2,748 cases in the hospitals, PA. 1 month ago, it was down to 1,783 COVID cases statewide. 2 weeks ago, 728 cases in the hospital. Last week, down to 675. As of yesterday, statewide, 35,000 available hospital beds. There were 641 people in the state of Pennsylvania that were in a hospital for COVID-related issues. This is the only thing where we kept healthy people home to take care of sick people. And because our media wants everyone to live in fear, they keep stoking the fire every day through social media and regular media. Keep stoking that fire.
Amen, brother.
Let's keep stoking those social issues. We'll keep preaching division. We'll just keep preaching it out there so that we'll burn buildings, tear down statues, attack our police. New York mayor yesterday is going to cut $1 billion from the police budget. That's good logic there, Mr. Mayor. Are you kidding me? No wonder the shootings are going up in Chicago and New York. We won't allow that to happen in Lycoming County. We will respect our law enforcement. We will support them. Because we're not going to turn into one of those communities where they're going to defund the police departments because of a few bad apples. There's bad apples in every profession. You get rid of them. You don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And that's what they want to do. This isn't about anything but anarchy. A person running for the president says, I'll make it a federal law that you wear a mask. What will be next? What will be the next federal law that you have to do? Because they think it's for you. It's for your good cause. So the planning cell looked at this yesterday, which has the coroner on it, which has the public safety director on it. And you don't think they take things serious? And they said the numbers aren't there to show us anything different. Lycoming County peaked in the middle of May, and that peak was 10 cases. 10 cases, that's when we peaked, middle of May. Well, tomorrow's July 1st. And we will revisit this every Monday. And if we see anything where we were going to put anyone into danger, we can always change it. We're not saying this is final. We're trying to move back to normal. And we don't have that direction from the state. When you have a governor at a press conference and they say, do you listen to the legislators? Do you listen to this department? You listen to that department? And he sits there and says, listen to me. That's wrong. We're all in this, and we have to make decisions together. He should be talking to everybody involved, not just his corner. Crossing over to the other side and saying, how do we get through this? How do we do solutions together instead of fighting it out in court? Which is unfortunate. This is a way to start to return to normal. And you can say, well, okay, wear the mask. Well, are we going to wear the mask because other states are going up? Or other countries are going up for the next 6 months, next year? There are 9 states out of 50 states that have increased. 9. Numerous states out of those 9 require a mask. California, North Carolina, their numbers are going up and they wear masks. So is that the solution? I'm not absolutely sure. But we do not need to insult each other because one wants to wear a mask and the other one doesn't. So respect each other's rights and their decisions. Social distancing is what's recommended. That's what we're doing in our buildings. We've put up the plexiglass in high areas, high density areas. Like Cumming County and our buildings have taken more precautions than most public places. Visit them, you'll see. And anyone who chooses to wear a mask can wear a mask in there, whether they're an employee or the public. And we'll continue to revisit this on a weekly basis. Thank you.
By the way, you know, maybe I know you're upset with the governor, what the governor's done, but at the same time, maybe the fact that we have 631 in PA in the hospital, which I think you were pointing out as a low number, is because of the actions that the governor's taken. And I think that maybe what we have to recognize is that as draconian as the moves were, they've resulted in not not having that high number today. Interestingly enough, the coroner is on Facebook saying that we must remain diligent. Quote: "We must remain diligent about safe distancing, masking, especially when in close proximity to others, and hand washing to protect those most vulnerable residents of Lycoming County." That's our coroner on a Facebook post. I was thinking a lot about this, and I was thinking how a generation that came before us, which would have been my parents and parents of many of us, how they sacrificed during World War II and other times. And I think about in England what people went through, but even in this country, how for 4 or 5 years they sacrificed for the greater good. My mother, who's passed away, is probably saying from her grave, "You kids have got to be kidding. You're asked to do something like wear a mask, and you feel that you can't do that." And when I think about what they gave up for us, and then you think about other countries like England and France that were completely destroyed in World War II. And as I said earlier, a lot of our veterans have compromised immune systems. They have, whether it's a veteran I know who has lupus, or other veterans I know who have other issues, they're at risk. They're at risk. And so my 10-year-old son texted me.
Commissioner, let me ask you a question.
What did he say? My 10-year-old son texted me and he said, "What's the big deal of wearing a mask?" And I guess at a certain point, I'm thinking about what you said about, we talked about how people, one extreme or the other, it's like, you either hate humanity or you hate, it's not that, but it's like at a certain point, what are we willing to give up?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever wore a mask any time in your life? We've had diseases and flus and viruses for my lifetime, your lifetime. Have you ever wore a mask because you didn't want those people to get sick or you wanted to get sick?
No, but you know what the difference is, Commissioner? I think the difference is that with this disease, you can be asymptomatic and not know it. And that was what I took away on the studying I did with Manor Care when the Director of Medical Services said, we found 50 to 70% of our patients and our employees had the disease and had no symptoms. I think that's the big difference here.
SARS was just as deadly. And they paid zero attention to SARS.
Yeah.
Zero.
Commissioners,
I don't know if they had symptoms.
Yes.
driving down the road, I'm getting a different perspective. It's like listening on the radio, a talk show, and I don't think that's what we're here for.
I agree, Commissioner.
Let's conduct, and I'm guilty of it as well.
Well, it's Commissioner's...
Conduct our business, and then we can talk about it after the meeting.
Commissioner's comments has been vented. Now it's time for public comment.
Yes, please.
Public comment?
More of the same old thing. My name is Gretchen Kennedy. I live at 900 Nichols Place, apartment 105 in Williamsport. Did I read right on the over the weekend that the commissioners mandated that you don't have to wear a mask in the public meeting, in the government buildings?
It's
Did I
optional.
understand that I read that?
Yeah, it's optional.
It didn't say optional. It just
optional.
said we don't have to.
It's optional. You don't have to. You can.
It made me wonder. This man comes in last Tuesday and starts to complain because he has to wear a mask, and everybody, and I'm saying every one of the three of you stood there or sat there and said, "Oh, you can't get it by air. You can't get it." You know, I said that. I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing? Because you don't. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Try telling that to the teenagers. They don't wear them, and the old men don't want to wear them because it's not macho. You know, I don't belong to the good old boys club. Thank God. Did you tell them about the virus? Yeah, you told them the virus isn't airborne. You decide no masks. The only way to beat this is to comply with what the doctors say. And Dr. Fauci said himself, masks help to protect you and them. And I've always said, if you can't see it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. What I see is that nationwide we have 505 deaths from COVID-19. What do you guys say? If we can't get people to wear a mask everywhere, how do we get them, the teenagers, to wear them? That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Anybody else? Will you step over to the podium, please? State your name for the record. Take your time. Thank you, Gretchen.
My name is Jerry Webb.
Good morning, Jerry.
820 High Street, Williamsport. I have mixed feelings about it, as far as wearing masks and things like that. One of the things that I did, I served in Vietnam for the freedom of choice. And if you think that you don't need to wear a mask around somebody that requires, then stay away. Simple process. But there's some places that require that you do it, and if you want to go in there, then you need to put one on. If you're concerned about your fellow man, woman, boys, and girls, and it's a requirement, then put one on. We was taught when we was younger, and still today, there's certain things that we need to do. You cough, cover your mouth. You know, you go out and play, get dirty, wash your hands. Clean surfaces and things like that, something that we've been taught a long time ago. Like I said, I have mixed feelings about this, but I'm concerned about how can I protect someone else. as well as myself. We say it's for someone else's protection, but it's for mine as well. But it's a choice. And I say we can eliminate stuff by saying, well, I won't go into this place if they require me to wear a mask because everybody else is doing it. That's a choice. But one of the things I say concerning the nurses' home, and we talk about being opposed to this and for this and that, or whatever case may be. I heard you mention about we got a thing where we say, well, this phase, then it goes away, we get another phase. But one thing I like to say about that, we as adapt, we're not going anywhere. We want that right for people in nursing home, and a lot of them don't understand that they have a choice. You know, you short-staffed it in a lot of nursing homes, but you got these people that need care. You take away from the parents and family coming to visit them, and that's something that's caused a lot of deaths too, because you get lonely, you get depressed, or whatever the case may be. People don't take these things in consideration. I worked in nursing home. I visited nursing home. I do services in nursing home, you know, Sunday services and stuff, but they stopped those things now. And I had a lot of people tell me that, you know what, I'd rather be in my home. I got a home, but I don't have nobody to care for me, because they got family members that have to work and take care of their children, and they're not able to be there with them, and so they're concerned about them, but they say, I want to be home. But they're not giving workers to go into the home monies that they can afford to live off of, so they can go into these homes. You know, it's the same thing of being in a nursing home or being in your in your own home. So I think that the funding should be there for those care workers to go into the homes or whatever it may be. People will live longer. I heard it say these chairs and tables last for 20 years. Well, lives matter more than tables and chairs. I think this is the last time I was here. You know, so we need to take and come up with something that's going to be better for everybody. When I stand for the Legion of the Flag, pledge allegiance to the flag, it reminds me of the flag that we have. Same flag, just a different symbol with handicapped people. It's a liberty and justice for all. Those are things that we fought for. Those are the things that we need to think about. Everybody, every life matters. It doesn't matter what color, race, or creed it is. Every life matters. And what are we doing to try to make it better? We get some funding for this and some funding for that, and we say, well, you know what, I won't put it here and I won't put it there. But we're talking about people's lives. We're talking about their livelihood. We're talking about people standing at home. I took care of my mother at home. She lived a lot longer. I've had a adopted mom, went to a nursing home. 2 weeks later, she was gone. She wanted to stay home, but they didn't have nobody coming to take care of, because the funding wasn't there, or the workers wasn't getting enough paid money, and so they said, well, I'm not going to take that job, but I'll go to a nursing home. And like I said, I like to say this, and then I sit down. It's so important that people stay in their homes, and a lot of them don't realize that they have an option to do that, because they're not really going to tell you in the nursing home because they're getting some funding or whatever, and they want to keep this money there. But people live longer in their own home, and some of them don't realize that I have a choice. Some of them don't know how to get in touch with people that will talk to them about these things, and so they figure that's the only option I got. You know, I don't have nobody to take care of my home. If I fall or something like that, who's going to take care of me? Who's going to be there? Whatever case may be. And like I said, the children of them have children of their own, so they can't be there 24 hours a day. You can't get 24-hour care in the home, but we don't have the funding. And that's one of my concerns too. We want the welfare of all the people, not just some of the people. You know, we'll say handicapped people, as they call them, or people with special needs or something like that. And I'm a veteran. I have one that people can't see. But the thing is that, well, those people, well, I fought for all people. And that's what it's all about, making it better for everyone. And we need to get away from the bureaucratic stuff or whatever you want to call it, and say, well, what's best for everybody. I know there's laws and there are guidelines, and there's, you know, we wrote so much stuff on paper saying, well, you know, you can't do this and you can't do this. We talk about the federal government, we're talking about the city government, we're talking about the state government, but it's all government. And we need to work together. We can't say, well, we can't fund this because the state won't do it, or the county won't do it, or whatever it can be. I pay taxes for federal, state, and local. So you're saying you can't be funded because this guideline, we need to think about some of those things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Any more of that?
Mr. Lauer, step up, please.
Morning.
Morning.
Rod Lauer, Jersey Shore. I'm here, I don't know what this is for. I'd like to know what this is, because I can't, is this the Manor Care deal here? That what this is about?
You'd have
That's
to
what I'd
ask,
like
you'd have
call
to
it.
ask them after the meeting.
This is Manor Care, right? You want,
You want to
okay,
address
well,
us, please?
all right.
Thank you.
Is that what this is about?
No.
Because I'll talk about the Manor Care thing, because I'm against that.
Okay.
If these people or whoever enter into a contract with Manor Care, okay? Manor Care enters into a legal binding contract with these people, and they say, if you give us everything of monetary value of yours and just give us everything, we'll guarantee you that we'll take care of you the rest of your life you live, and we'll guarantee you safe health care. Okay, so whoever the Manor Care people are, they entered into a contract. I say Manor Care is responsible for this. They should have enough money back. If I was a business owner, I'd have enough money back for these things. They should have enough money, you know, like the colleges and stuff do. They should have that money saved, so if these people need relocated, it's them. They can do it, or the insurance companies. Me as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay to relocate anybody. If you're in a secure care facility like that, you made the decision when you signed that agreement. So Manor Care should be held responsible for this, not the taxpayers at all. Thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Can I address this issue about what this is for?
No, not this time. Any other public comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, everyone have a good 4th of July. Our next meeting will be a work session on Tuesday, July the 7th at 10 a.m. We'll be here right here in this meeting. Thank you.